Hello, everybody. We are here at the Aries 19, Wolk 19 Tower in the Aries, Wolk 19 floor on the Aries Tower here in Vienna. And I am here with Billy Franklin, Joshua with Believe High Fidelity, coming to you with a show report on both the Vienna show, the Hi-Fi Deluxe show, as well as the new exclusive show where we're filming here on top of the tower with this nice scenic view behind us that everybody seems to be loving. So we wanted to do for this is in memory of Terry Uringi and Peter Bruniger of AVShowrooms, who are not here with us anymore, but we wanted to do in honor of them that kind of style format where we list our favorite rooms. So Billy is going to list his rooms, I'm going to list my rooms. I personally carry Aries Surat, so I have a bias. I'm going to leave all of my exclusive audio show Aries Surat stuff to the end, so that way, you know, none of my objective or subjective views are skewed in any way, and I'll let you guys decide what you think. So, ready to kick it off, Billy?
I'm ready.
Fantastic. All right, so I'll start with my overall favorite room, which was the a cappella room at the main Vienna show. It had a cappella's own electronics and the MSB digital, and the big tower horns with the red colored horn mouth in the middle. Absolutely musically engaging, wide sound stage. I liked the nuances. They played a lot of variety of music, but it was all very pleasing. They did a great job in setup. Overall, sonically, it had dynamics. It was nice and easy to listen to. Went back there 3 times during the show, and overall, that was my top pick. So, Billy, what is your top pick?
Well, I just wanted to comment on that room for a second. It's true, it was a lovely room. It had excellent dynamics, and maybe the thing that I look for the most is naturalness, as if the musicians were in the room. And I know that gets cliched a lot, but this was an example of a room that really felt like that, because you could hear the voices. I personally am not an Aries Surat dealer, but I love the gear, and so I'm sort of biased toward the gear to some degree, although the gear that was used in the a cappella room, which was tube gear with low output set amplifiers, was very nice. However, that was not my first choice. My very first choice, and I chose this room because I felt like it did everything. It had dynamics, it had presence, it had clarity. It sounded very natural, as if the musicians were present inside the room. Was the room with a Vox and Aries Surat. It was a combination of Aries Surat gear, including the DAC preamp amplifier, and used the Raffaello Vox speakers, which are the second from the top, although they didn't use the additional bass wings because the room was just simply too small. But small room or not, these large, imposing ribbon panels were amazing in terms of their realism. Just like real life in that room.
And I would agree, but I'm an Aries Surat dealer, so I can't agree. So, but I agree. All right, so I will take the next one, and another one I enjoyed was the Audio Note Condo Room. This was a smaller speaker presentation, one of their smaller bookshelf kind of designs, but musically engaging. I found myself going to a lot of rooms, and there were certainly a lot of very impressive rooms this year in terms of sound and in terms of, you know, all of the audiophile terminology. So slam, dynamics, detail, layering, techno. Sometimes you just want to be captured by the music. You just want to enjoy, and just you can listen for hours. And the Audio Note room was just very musically engaging. They were playing analog, and it seems a lot of my personal choices were analog related rooms. But that was a small set of speakers, their own electronics, their own turntable front end. Very musically engaging, just had a lot of soul, very easy on the ears, very organic. I just really had a good sense of enjoyment in the room. I had a smile on my face listening, and it wasn't, you know, a big room, big system. It was just very much a pleasure and a joy to listen to.
And Condo is a famous manufacturer. I also enjoyed the Condo room. Their history goes back a long time. And some of the Condo original gear, it's always hand built with hand connections inside the chassis. And for a while they even had their cartridges hand coiled by their own master, who's no longer with us. But I felt like Condo, even though they've sort of lost the guy who got them started, made some beautiful music. Again, it was single-ended tubed amplifiers, because we have showing a little bit of a preference here, but
you'll see a commonality in our opinions of tube and single-ended designs. But.
Well, they sounded great. I mean, I love both kinds of amps. I have them at home, as I'll say, and tube, but tubes were sort of dominating on this. For my second, I actually ranked the Acapello second. Again, that was a tube-driven, all electronics by Acapello. Smaller horn. I think it's several parts down in their lineup. We should have got the name of that horn. But anyway, Acapello
we'll
was my
throw that
second.
in the comments or description somewhere.
Right. We're in number 3 now?
So if Acapello was your second, so then another one I really much enjoyed was the Musical Systems room. All white speakers, looked like a coaxial driver, had a couple bass modules behind it, and boy, you talk about imaging, you talk about musicality, you talk about the name. It's called Musical Systems, and it sounded extremely musical, but very coherent. I mean, I do enjoy a lot of power in music and dynamics, and having this big sound stage and a lot of the hi-fi virtues, but in terms of just sonic kind of purity and just elegance, and a very good sense of placement of all the instruments, while also having a very delicate, I would say is probably the word I would choose for that room, is it just had a very delicate touch to everything. And when you're in these shows and you're just hearing boom, 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 or you're hearing all these slamming and ticks and pops and whistles and bells and you name it, sometimes you just want that ease. And I think that's kind of the commonality in my choices, is that with all this high performance stuff, you know, sometimes you just don't get that lovely texture, that lovely detail that just makes the music listenable for hours. And the coherency of those drivers and the setup of the room to get really good sense of every single detail in the music, I think they did a great job. That was one of my top picks.
Yeah, I just want to say that room was solid state, and I thought it had really great bass. And then maybe most importantly, it wasn't one of the mega dollar sounds. It was a more accessible system in just about every way. So
yeah, that was in the X halls. Yeah,
excellent system for music, very musical.
Yes. All right, Billy, take it away.
My third choice was the Go Bell system, the Divid Majestic speaker that was had Wadax as a DAC, but I'm not sure I recall the amplifiers.
It was Vitas Audio was
Vitas,
the
okay.
amplification.
Okay, Vitas was shooting. I thought the first song I heard on it, I was just blown away. I thought it was so amazing. I heard some more recordings that didn't quite sound as amazing though, and so I wrote it down a little bit. If everything sounded like the first album that went through this guy, it would be a top pick. But as it was, it went downhill a little bit with less smooth recordings, which is always a truth. But I put that as my third system with that. Go Bell Majestic.
Which is a good disclaimer that sometimes you have to stay in the room more than for just one or two songs to get a sense of everything, because one can sound very impressive in one day and not so much the next day or the next track. And we'll get into that because there were some irregularities like that or I should say commonalities that occur when you come back or you listen a little bit longer. I actually have the Ineos room, which had the Mar-10 speakers. Ineos is the music server. They impressed me not necessarily for the overall experience, but the bass was perfect. I mean, the bass was punchy, it was deep. A lot of these rooms, I would say the large majority of these rooms in every show, it's a new show for everybody, right? Everybody's getting acclimated and not everybody is prepared for what to expect. So to get bass like that in a room that just had the power and the slam, the dynamics and no overhang, and everybody else is struggling, they knocked it out of the park. That was my best room, but it was my best room for the bass.
And I thought it was really nice to have a streamer that's easy to operate and effective. That's not necessarily a thing in high-end audio. Some of these streamers are trouble.
A lot of trouble.
But the Ineos is very easy to use and does a really great job as a streamer. I just want to make that comment because that sounded good.
There's your PSA. Public service announcement.
No, I'm not connected to Ineos then anyway. Anyway, next, what was, are we at 4? Number 4. My 4th was the AVShowrooms Siren. I don't work for AVShowrooms yet. So I would say I think it needed a little tuning. I felt like everything out of the ribbon driver was amazing, literally amazing, but some of the conventional drivers weren't quite keeping up. I don't know if it needs to be EQ'd or crossovered a little differently, but I thought it was close, but it was up there. Number 4 is where I'd put the AVShowrooms.
Okay, I can't comment because I am AVShowrooms guy.
Right. You can't make comments.
I can't make comments. So the Gobel Gerbil room, I had that again as well. Same, very much the same opinion as Billy. There was one track in particular, and you know, it was magic. It was absolutely so real, had so much finesse. A little worn for me in terms of just, it was softer on the presentation, didn't have as much dynamics as I'm used to, but I mean, just absolutely dreamy. And I found that, you know, if that was the case, that was just a standout performance. Good job on the room and the speaker. All right, what's your next one?
Right. My next one also is a not super exotica room. It was the Voxative room. Voxative's claim to fame are their single drivers to produce most of the sound spectrum, and so you hear a sound that feels very of a piece, feels unified. It actually had a lot of great detail. I've owned Voxative in the past. This was better than anything I've heard before from them. I felt that Voxative really did a great job of producing a pleasant, really musical sound that made me want to sit in the room and listen longer. It was just completely enjoyable, doesn't take up a lot of space. Thought it was a real achievement on the price. They use their own electronics as well, but it was great.
And I agree with that. I feel that if I had more time, which I was pressed for time drastically, I think that room easily could have been towards the top for me of the rooms that I listened to. The last, and I should have put that on my list, but I forgot about it. So I'm glad you brought it up because that was an excellent room. Overall coherency was fantastic. The last on my list is the ESD room, which may be a little bit polarizing because it was, you know, when you compare all the rooms and all the shows and you kind of have this massive multi-million-dollar system with active amplification and a horn for every way, and I think 5 or 6 way that it is, it was the most scale, the most dynamics. You know, it had a huge room, used up the entire room, and you just know right off the bat that trying to get a system like that dialed in, you know, in a day, couple days that they have for a multi-way horn system, fully active, and get everything working right, it's never going to sound perfect. But there were things in that room that were just spectacular. The scale, the dynamics, the energy, just the emotion that it conveyed, the accuracy within certain instruments. The only complaint that I have, which is just my personal complaint, is that they use all Class D in their amplification for each of those drivers powered. It would have sounded, in my opinion, so much better if they had some sort of a tuned amplification. Class D just personally doesn't do it for me. Sorry, folks, but that's just the nature of the beast for me. So, and your last pick.
My last pick, I also have an honorable mention.
Yeah, I have honorable. We'll have honorable mentions.
I guess my last pick would be the Martin Logan room. They use their full range electrostatic. It's one of their older speakers. I had never heard it before, didn't know what it was going to sound like, and was very impressed. I thought it did a great job. It was being driven by conventional electronics not tube, but rather solid state, but it produced a really wide sound stage with a lot of that accuracy I like when electrostatics are working right. And Martin Logan combines a conventional driver with an electrostatic. That's their MO. But in this particular driver, the crossover is very low, and so most of the music is coming from that electrostat. I just thought it sounded great.
Yeah, I agree. It's been a struggle to hear Martin Logan sound their best at these shows, and I think this was the Neolith and EMM Labs in that room. And I've owned lots of Martin Logans over the years. He owns Martin Logans too, and the rooms, you never know what you get, but this particular one, I fully agree that the bass 2 of their external sub was very impressive. So now we will go on to our honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions, yay.
Yay. All right, so for me, the first one is the Constellation Room. It was one of the first rooms we visited in the main center, and their amplifier this thing is massive, sexy, machined super well, musical, had tons of control over the Wilson speakers it was driving, and Irv accidentally had the volume too loud right at the start of the demo, and boy, the power and precision was great in that room, but then he lowered it, and so that's why he's in my honorable mention. If he just kept the volume up, probably would have moved it towards the top.
These are huge. These are 300 pound per monoblock, produce almost 2,000 pounds into 8 ohms resistance. Really powerful. Not quite as powerful as my honorable mention amplifier, but these are and they really sound good. I think previous Constellation amps were too polite, and they just didn't have the kind of zing you want out of a giant monster amp. And these have corrected that problem. There was really a lot of nice music coming out of those amps. If you can find a place for gigantic 300 pound amps. They're beautiful though. I mean, they're serious audio pornography. You'll love the way they look if you're a real audiophile.
Yes, you will. Yeah, a lot of zing. So, okay, that was my honorable mention. What was your honorable mention?
My honorable mention was the Zellaton room, where they were demoing their smallest speakers, Plural Evos, I think they're called, but they were demoing them with a massive amplifier. This was a $600,000 stereo amp that produces many thousands of watts per channel. It weighs like 500 pounds. I always wonder how they're going to move something like that. But the Zellatons had the good fortune of being driven by an what's the name of the rail?
It is Stellavox.
Stellavox. There was a restored Stellavox TD9 reel-to-reel that was producing a lot of the music, and it sounded really magnificent through that reel-to-reel. The other sources were a little bit bright because of this monstrous YS Japanese amplifier. I thought it was a little on the bright side. But it sounded great when it was going through the reel-to-reel. Absolutely amazing. Amazing speakers. I wish they'd put some bigger speakers with that gigantic amplifier.
Yeah, that was a gigantic amplifier. That was like kind of like a chair, a full-on sofa. How big that thing was.
It's 500 pounds. 500 pounds.
500 pounds. Wow.
Yeah.
This honorable mention was at the Hi-Fi Deluxe. It was the Potet, I believe, room. and they had a demonstration where they had multiples of speakers set up, looked like some omnidirectional, and then they had chairs on one side and then chairs on the other side as well. So you could get a little bit different perspective no matter where you sat. But boy, there was the whole, and even though it was not the biggest room, they used up every space, and it was like, here's this sound in this corner, this sound in this corner, here's right here, right there. I mean, everything was so clear. Not the best sounding comparatively in terms of like sonics, but if you can improve that with just better gear. But everything in that speaker delivered a picture perfect image everywhere in the room, and it was truly a very unique experience. Very much enjoyed that room at the Hi-Fi Deluxe, and there wasn't a lot at the Hi-Fi Deluxe, unfortunately, for us to check out, but we'll talk about that in a bit.
But that room truly did, it was a three-dimensional image. You could walk to different places and hear the full image.
Yes.
It wasn't like an MBL, which gives you some immersion. You're supposed to sit in the right place. This was go wherever you want, and you have a stereo image,
Yes.
front, back, right, left. It was pretty amazing they were able to. They're using a Trinoff front end. But yeah, incredible sound no matter where you went. Perfect for like home theater applications. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree.
Or dance hall.
Or dance hall. All right, so what is your next honorable mention?
That's it.
Oh, okay. I have a couple more honorable mentions. One we've already covered, which is the Martin Logan and EMM Labs room. The Neolith, I've heard a number of shows. It never sounded as good as I knew it could sound, but this particular show really did a great job. My last two, which are not really related to sound but related to music, the two rooms I want to mention are the Broadman room and the Griffin room, that had the best music for me, because all of these rooms are playing hi-fi audiophile music. The Broadman gentleman running the room, we don't play hi-fi, is what he said. We don't play hi-fi, we play real music here. And I love that statement. He played real music. I loved the sound of it. So that was one. And of course, I can't not mention Rune in the Griffin room, because Rune always is the only one that plays like hard rock metal. And you don't hear that at all at any of these rooms. It's too risky, too scary. Boy, he's got the balls, he did it, and it sounded great. So I'm going to wrap up my honorable mention with those two rooms.
And I wanted to say one thing about the Gobel room is that we have always sought out WADAX because it has such a strong reputation in the community as being an excellent DAC and streamer combination. But we have only heard it sound pretty mediocre in every show we've been to. But this was the first time, and they had the full setup, including the super expensive interconnects, that it sounded really amazing when it was with those Gobels. So now we've seen the potential when set up right. And it's just the message is you can't really trust show sound per se. Often a great system will sound bad, even when it's a great system.
Yeah, which really leads to, okay, you could leave with a great impression of a product. You could not leave with a great impression of a product. It all depends on how well the person is able and the people are able to set up the room in order for you to get a sense of what they're trying to bring to the table. And it's not easy. It is not easy. I've been doing this for a long time, a lot of shows. It's so not easy, and you never know what you're getting into. You're never prepared enough. So if they can do it, great. If they can't, don't think it's a bad product. Just wait till the next opportunity that you can if you're interested.
Yeah, the room we're sitting in now is all glass. It's a glass sky lounge, and they had to try to get a system to sound right in here, and it was very rough because the reflections were just so harsh. But I mean, they eventually improved it with some reflecting material, but it's very challenging to get an all glass room to sound good.
Yeah, so that's a good segue. So we'll talk about the shows at the show, because there were several shows. So backstory. The high-end society moved from Munich, as you know, to Vienna, but there was not enough room for everybody to be a part of that, and not everybody that had been going to Munich for many years, or even had the biggest rooms, including AVShowrooms, were not able to get a room at the main Vienna show. So as a byproduct of that, not as a protest, but as a byproduct, in order to be able to reach the same people that they've reached every year, they had to come up with a solution. So Hi-Fi Deluxe has always been the mainstay accommodating the Munich show and now the Vienna show. And now Aries Surat and Stavros put together the exclusive show, which is their own electronically branded show. You know, all the electronics in the rooms were Aries Surat. And so now there were several shows on top of that. There was one that I know that we missed just based upon time. But let's talk about the main Vienna hall. What did you think about the new accommodations of high-end Vienna?
Well, I think overall it was pretty good. It's massive. It's a very massive hall, and we just happened to run into some problems at the airport, so we were trying to deal with some musculoskeletal injuries that were making it a little hard for us to get around. It's such a huge hall. I mean, but it was nice. I mean, there was a lot of space. It wasn't hard to get to the rooms. They were put together. I think they were put together pretty well, as best as you can in a convention hall. So I think they were challenging to make sound right, but there were still a lot of good rooms. I really liked the room we're in now, which is where Aries Surat set up several rooms, because it's just so picturesque. Where you have a fantastic view, but it wasn't attached to the show. You had to find your way over here. But yeah, it has a beautiful balcony. We served dinner there. It was great. This was a fun place to have a show, although this is not where Aries Surat is going to be next year. But this was a good show. But I think in general it was.
Aries Surat is going to be here next year.
Oh, in this room too? No,
in this room too. It's the same building. Yeah. So yeah, the Vienna show, like you said, was a great venue. A lot of accommodations. Most things were easy. It was very hard on us because of our airport issue, and we were completely wiped out from day one. So, but we managed to try to get in as many rooms as we could. I thought that they accomplished everything. Was had a very similar feel to the Munich show, but I think there was a lot of improvements there. Everything was pretty streamlined. And ultimately, I would say that the only real knock, which is more on Vienna than it is on the Vienna show, is the food.
Yeah, food was great. I also would have liked a little better communication, like when Dominique Fields and me played. That would have been
Yeah, that
nice.
would have been good as well. I totally agree. There wasn't really a lot of communication when to go and experience some of the non-room related events.
There was a demo of the big giant new Goldman speakers, and I didn't get to that. I just didn't hear about it until afterwards. I mean, that's the announcement somewhere or something. But that's on Goldman, not on the show producers.
Yeah, so that is another thing to mention is we didn't hit every room, not even close. And so we just, in most cases, just found rooms as we were walking and just went floor to floor, just tried to hit as many rooms as possible. So if you're not on this list, who cares? You know, it doesn't mean anything. It just means that we didn't happen to see your room potentially. So that being said, what about the Hi-Fi Deluxe? What did you think about that venue?
Hi-Fi Deluxe was much nicer in Munich. That just, I guess because it's on the bottom floor of a little restaurant, it just didn't come across in a very elegant way. I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't as nice as it was in Munich.
No, not at all. I think that it was it just really felt a little bit claustrophobic. There wasn't a lot of space to breathe. It was like as soon as you come in, there's restaurant, there's you know, the marketplace area, which has just a little bit of room to work with and walk around, and then there's, you know, the rooms right next to that. So not a lot of rooms there. The venue, I would say they probably should try to find another spot for next year. But ultimately, you know, there wasn't a whole lot to see. I did cover as many rooms as I could there. So all of this stuff will have video in the description for you to check out. And now we'll wrap up with the exclusive show. So the exclusive show was exclusive for the vendors, not for the general public. So we only approached vendors that we felt, you know, had something to bring to the table for this show. So we had Clarisys Audio for the speakers in the room that we're in right now. We had Aqueo Audio on the 19th floor, and also Prodigio Audio on the 19th floor. So they were by invitation, they all accepted. Every one of them was floored by how much success, a month and a half show, literally a month and a half of preparation, 2 weeks of marketing, a lot of marketing on the fly to get traffic over here. But overwhelmingly a success as far as the exhibition goes. And I would say that probably another key success is how much time people spent here, because it wasn't this, you know, grab and go, got to get to the next room, everybody on top of one another. There was space.
Yeah, there was a place to sit. There was a nice exec to go view things on. It was a much more relaxed and enjoyable atmosphere up here by a lot.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the view around us. I mean, the building accommodations were nice. A little bit difficult to get to. Need better signage next year. But if you made it to this show, you would have had some amazing sound, just like the main show. Not everything sounded great on the first day, but things sounded amazing on the last day. So ultimately, depending on the time frame that you have, keep that in mind. But the building we're in right now, the Aries Tower, they've signed the agreement to do it again next year. All of the exhibitors want to participate again next year, eagerly, including Marketplace. We only had Norman Varney from AVShowrooms, and he. Kronos, yes, Kronos is going to exhibit here as well. So the Marketplace, we had one Marketplace vendor, and that Marketplace vendor also had, you know, some level of success here that he didn't have at the Hi-Fi Deluxe. So for a small and very niche show with exclusive brands and an all Aries Sarod in every room, so you couldn't, you know, say that Aries Sarod can't drive any kind of speaker. I think he did a great job. Him and Michael from Klingloff, you know, they put this together almost overnight and really knocked it out of the park in terms of making sure everything was taken care of and every need was met, and made changes on the fly to make it a success. So my hat's off to them, and I did some video. There's some other video around to cover what happened at this show. So I think we've talked enough. That's a lot of talking. A lot to cover. If you've stayed here this long, thank you. You know,
really big shoe.
You know, do the like and subscribe thing if you want.
Come next year.
You know, come next year. But yeah, thanks for joining us on this journey. We love you, and we miss you, Terry and Peter. So glad you guys always covered the show and did a great job in just thinking about you. So signing off.